What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is Thursday, January 7th. This is episode 14. It's going to be a good one. We're going to start off with some college sports. Then we'll go into the big blockbuster MLB trade that happened today involving Francisco Lindor and the New York Mets. And then we're going to talk NFL playoffs and, kind of give an update on, or not an update as much as it's just what my opinion is on the Houston Texans and Philadelphia Eagles going forward and just how they're going to navigate their QB situations. It's a good episode. It's a little bit longer one. I hope you guys enjoy. Have a good one. Let's start off with some college basketball, guys. So we talked about Illinois last week and how they have to have a strong January, and so far they're 2-0. They had a scary one Thursday against Northwestern. They were down 15 at half, but outscored Northwestern 53-13 in the second half. Good win for Illinois. Hopefully they kind of starting to catch fire again. Maybe get back inside that top 10. They do have a tough January, being inside the Big Ten. So we'll see how it goes for them. Also this past weekend, Rutgers traveled to Michigan State and lost 68-45. And then they also lost to Iowa 77-75. Everyone's saying Rutgers, all the announcers saying Rutgers, they're a good team, they're an exciting team, they're fun to watch, but, I didn't really get any of that from their games. I know they almost beat Iowa, but Iowa also, they only scored 77 points. They were not hitting their shots. They just weren't on, they weren't playing their best basketball, and they still won. Rutgers did not seem, that great to me. They'll probably fall outside the top 25. Also this past week, Texas went into Kansas Allen Fieldhouse, and they won 84-59. Just destroyed Kansas. Texas played really good, and Kansas played really bad. I still think Kansas is the better team. We'll see whenever they have a rematch later on in the year. But Texas beat number 3 Kansas, and now Texas is the number 4 team. I believe Kansas slid back to number 6. But yeah, Texas is, they're a good team, but I'm not going to say they're the 4th best team in the nation. But we'll see, kind of how they, navigate the rest of the season. Coming up, they play 14 West Virginia and number 18 Texas Tech. Those will be 2 good tests for them. And if they do get both those wins, pretty easily, they'll be a team to watch. They should be a top 10 team, especially after getting both of those wins. And we'll see what comes around March Madness time. Also this week, Tuesday has 3 top 25 matchups. Duke travels to Virginia Tech for an ACC battle. Wisconsin and Michigan are playing in Michigan. That's going to be a top 10. And then West Virginia travels to Baylor. Baylor is obviously the second best team. They should easily beat West Virginia. Wisconsin and Michigan, that should be a good game. Michigan did just have a decent win against Rutgers. They moved up a lot in the rankings. Wisconsin, had a scary win on Thursday this week. So, that should be a good matchup. And then Duke and Virginia Tech, who knows the way Duke's been playing, but I wouldn't be surprised if Virginia Tech won that game by double digits. Moving on to college football, national championship obviously is coming up Monday. Let's just kind of talk, what's going on, just kind of give some updates. Bama is 7.5 point favorites. The over-under is 75.5. I don't know who's going to win, but I'm definitely going to take the under for that 75.5. We did find out Waddle is a game day decision. He's still nursing that injury. And then Fields, after taking a big hit against Clemson, kind of in his abdomen, he has confirmed that he'll play, or the team has confirmed he'll play, which is kind of necessary for Ohio State to even have a chance. But I think Bama's the better team, but Ohio State has only played 7 games this year. Maybe they're well rested. We'll see how that goes. They kind of destroyed Clemson. And speaking of that Clemson-Ohio State game, yes, Justin Fields played, outstanding, but Trevor Lawrence just had no time in the pocket. That O-line was horrendous, and obviously we know Ohio State's got good defenders on their line, as always, and they can rush the passer, but still Trevor Lawrence had no chance with the way Ohio State was getting after him with 3 or 4 pass rushers. Also, Mac Jones won the Davey O'Brien Award, which is the award they give out to the best quarterback in college football. This one was kind of weird. Is Mac Jones good? Yeah. But was he the best quarterback? Now, so when it comes to Heisman is who had the best season. Who had the best stats, right? So I can see why, a quarterback that's clearly not the best, like Trevor Lawrence never won the Heisman. And it's not that he wasn't the best quarterback. It's just he didn't have the best stats. It's understandable. But the Davey O'Brien Award goes to the best quarterback, and for Mac Jones to win it, it seems like a steal from Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Trevor Lawrence has been the best quarterback the past 3 years in college football, right? So for him to not have won it this year, especially his last year, it's crazy. And then also Michigan and Jim Harbaugh are finalizing a 5-year deal. What do I think about this? I'm going to say it's a mistake. I mean, Harbaugh's been there for a while. He's got his recruits in there, and he hasn't done anything special. I mean, Ohio State actually went on the Twitter, and their football page liked the tweet that said Michigan and Jim Harbaugh were finalizing the deal. As you can tell, Ohio State's not scared. I don't see Michigan winning anything within those 5 years. Honestly, I don't even see Harbaugh making it through those next 5 years. Apparently, there's a low buyout in the agreement, but we'll see. All right, now we're moving on to the big boys. We're moving on to the pros. We'll talk some MLB. We did have a big trade involving Francisco Lindor happen on Thursday. We're really just going to be talking about that in the Mets, and then we'll move on to NFL as we got a lot to talk about there. So starting, talking about MLB. So the Cleveland Indians have traded Francisco Lindor and Carlos Carrasco to the New York Mets for Amed Rosario, Andres Jimenez, Josh Wolf, and Isaiah Green. So obviously we know what talent Francisco Lindor is. Carlos Carrasco is also, has been a Cy Young candidate, especially before he had cancer, but he's still, a very good pitcher. It's a pretty lopsided trade for Cleveland, but when you're a small market team like that who's not trying to spend a lot, you just kind of got to get what you can get. I guess Gavin Lux was not available for the Dodgers to trade. He was off the table for Cleveland to get. But, I'm kind of surprised how much Cleveland, or the lack of what Cleveland's getting back. But who knows? Maybe they'll get something good out of these 2 or 4 guys. A lot of you probably don't know. So, Amed Rosario, guy Cleveland's getting, he's an everyday shortstop that Cleveland's going to get to replace Lindor. And then Andres Jimenez, he made his debut this past year in 2020, and he plays second, short, and third. His utility would be nice, just kind of as a, he could probably play outfield too. So just his utility will be nice overall wherever they need it. Josh Wolf is a right-handed pitcher, and Isaiah Green is an outfielder. They're both still in the minors. Actually, I don't even think Green has made his minor league debut yet. But they were the number 9 and 10 prospects the Mets had, which just kind of shows they had 8 other guys they could have sent prospect-wise back to Cleveland. So it's kind of a weird trade for Cleveland, but when you're not going to pay anyone, you get what you can get. Talking about the Mets now, so their starting lineup going into the 2021 season looks like this: DeGrom, Carrasco, Stroman, Steven Matz, and David Peterson. And that's just the top 4 guys, because Steven Matz isn't bad. The top 4 guys, though, are just phenomenal. And then you just add in Francisco Lindor into your top 3 in the batting order, and they're going to be a tough team to compete against. And take this into account: if they do make the playoffs, which I'll be surprised if they don't, Syndergaard is set to return in June from Tommy John surgery, and if he comes back, he'll be the number 1, and that means you have Marcus Stroman as your number 4 pitcher. That's crazy to even think about. I mean, it's ridiculous. And Bauer is still available. I doubt they'll go after Bauer, especially because they said they were trying to extend Lindor, in the next few weeks. They really want to keep him there in New York. But, Bauer is not off the table. But, for the price he's wanting. And, I know the Mets, Steve Cohen's the richest owner. The Mets are here to spend money. But just for the price Bauer's, trying to get, it's going to be kind of hard for the Mets to, pay that much when they have these other stars they got to pay, especially, depending on what this Lindor trade is. I'm assuming he'll get a pretty hefty deal compared to what we kind of got last offseason, or 2 off seasons ago with, Harper and Machado. He'll get something a little under them maybe. That's going to be all for the MLB this week. Not much has happened, recently in the past week or so, just that one big trade. But let's move on and talk NFL. Okay, as I just said, we're talking NFL. We got a lot to discuss. We'll start off with just kind of, the paper stats, going into the playoffs. So most of y'all know there are 7 teams in each division this year, which means 14 teams in the playoffs. I kind of like it. Only one team gets a bye rather than 2. You get another team, and you also get 6 games the first week in a playoffs rather than 4. So I'm all for it, and I hope the players are too. Maybe this will continue. All right, so let's just get into it. Indianapolis is playing Buffalo. That's the 7-2 seed. The Bills are, I'm pretty sure they're over a touchdown favorite. They should walk through with this game, even if their offensive coordinator, Brian DeBole, is, still kind of getting outside interest. Maybe not as focused, but the Bills should win. But don't be surprised if Indianapolis does make it close. The Bills' defense has not been great. Not as good as they were last year. They're starting to pick up the pace again and kind of get into things, but last year's unit was way stronger than this one. And if Indianapolis can keep the ball, in their hands, maybe get the Bills' offense out of rhythm. So it could go either way. India does have a good defense, and they have a good O-line, so they can run the ball on the Bills probably all day long. But yeah, Bills should still win. The addition of Stephon Diggs has been crazy for, that whole offense. So they should come out with the dub. Cleveland and Pittsburgh, this is a 6-3 seed matchup. I was kind of liking Cleveland going into this game, just because they've kind of been hot lately, and Pittsburgh has definitely not. I know they sat Roethlisberger last week, and Cleveland only won by 2 points, but the Cleveland made the playoffs for the first time since, I believe, 2002, or maybe it was 2007. It's been a while. They're all excited. They're traveling to Pittsburgh. They've already played Pittsburgh twice this season. Only once that really counted, But yeah, I wanted to say Cleveland, but then Cleveland had a corona outbreak, and not many players or coaches that are super important are missing except their head coach. He is not going to be there. I do not know who's filling in. I want to say it's the offensive coordinator, but it's going to be tough for, Cleveland to get past, a tough Pittsburgh defense without their head coach. So yeah, I think I'm going to take Pittsburgh in this one too, but that should be fun to watch. Next game, probably the most fun to watch out of all the games this weekend, is going to be number 5 seed Baltimore taking on the 4 seed Tennessee Titans. As we know, they had a great game earlier this year, and they had a great game last year in the divisional round. Tennessee won both of those games. I went back and I watched the film earlier this week. Tennessee I think they're going to win this game again. They just seem to have, not the Ravens' number, but just a better, how do I say this? Even if Baltimore is the better team, Tennessee just has, their strengths are Baltimore's weaknesses. So they just counter Baltimore in a unique way. I don't know if Baltimore's going to be able to just stop Derrick Henry, and Tennessee can stop Lamar Jackson. What it looks like after watching the past 2 games and just Baltimore games in general, if Tennessee can get out to an early lead, maybe like just a 10-0 lead, right? If they can get out to 10-0 lead, I think they'll win. I don't think Baltimore is built to come back from games not Baltimore, I guess, but Lamar Jackson's not quite there yet. I don't know if he'll ever be there, but he's not coming back. We've seen it all year. Baltimore beats the terrible teams, and they lose to the good ones. And this is a game that I think they're going to lose to a good team. Moving over to the NFC, Chicago's traveling to New Orleans. New Orleans is going to win. Not much to say. I've seen a lot of stuff about people saying this is Trubisky's chance to keep his job in Chicago. I don't think that's even if Trubisky plays outstanding in the playoffs. I don't think Chicago's going to keep him around. We've seen his ceiling, I want to say, even if he goes on some magical Nick Foles runs with Foles on the bench. Moving on, the Rams travel to Seattle. On paper, this should be a good game, or it should have been a good game, but Jared Goff probably not going to play. They keep saying he might, but they're prepping like I think his name's John. They're prepping like Wofford's going to play, the backup who played last week in Arizona. But yeah, if Goff played, it would be a lot better of a game because Seattle's defense is like Swiss cheese with all those holes. But Seattle should win this game with, I'm not going to say ease. They do play each other twice a year, but they should come out with the win. Tampa Bay and Washington's the next game. I don't think it's going to be as lopsided as people are saying. Washington does have a great defensive line, and overall their defense is not bad, and they can get pressure with 4. And as we all know, Tom Brady's weakness is whenever the other team, the defense, can get pressure with only rushing 4 people. So don't think it's going to be that lopsided, but I do think Tampa Bay is going to win maybe by double digits, but it shouldn't be a blowout, especially now that Alex Smith is back healthy, or healthy as he can be right now. But yeah, Tampa Bay should win that, and we'll move on with possibly only one upset happening, and it's not really an upset because Tampa Bay is favored, even though they're a 5 seed against a 4 seed. That's about it for this weekend's playoffs. Those are my thoughts on the games, but let's talk about kind of what happened this past weekend, last weekend. So we'll start off with last weekend. There's a decent amount to say about this, but I'll try to keep it short. If you did watch the Sunday night game between the Washington football team and the Philadelphia Eagles, the Eagles decided to randomly bench Carson Wentz. I believe it was like mid-third quarter, maybe it was the beginning of the fourth quarter. I don't think it was Doug Peterson's say to bench him. I doubt any head coach in the NFL, especially, Doug Peterson, is going to bench their rookie quarterback who they're maybe hoping is the future of the franchise. They want to get him that extra game time, especially in a game that it doesn't mean anything for the Eagles, but it's a tough game against a division rival who has to win to get into the playoffs. I mean, that's a pretty good situation to put Hurts in and see how he does. And for them to bench him like that, I don't think it was Peterson's decision. I think it came from the higher up saying, hey, if we win this game, we're going to get the 9th overall pick instead of, the 6th overall pick. And this game means nothing for us. And I think Peterson was kind of forced to do it. But I also think it was a lose-lose for Peterson because after benching him, I mean, he can't just come out and say, they made me do it, right? So after benching Jalen Hurts, all the players are just pissed at him. I mean, you could see it if you were watching the game. Chris Collinsworth was even talking about the O-line was pissed. The defense was pissed. People were going up and asking Peterson, what is going on? What is he doing? I mean, if you're Jalen Hurts, they showed him a few times on the sideline, but I just got to imagine he's laughing inside. What is going on? I mean, Nate Sudfeld had no chance to win that game. He had no reason to be in that game. I mean, Greg Ward probably could have done better at quarterback. It was a stupid decision for, whoever made it, but it's a lose-lose for Doug Peterson because now he's got to go into next season, not knowing how much of promise Hurts has, what could have happened in that game. We'll never know. But also all the players are hating him. His job is probably going to be more on the line now that, he's in order to be a head coach in the league, the players got to like you. They got to want to play for you. And after making a decision like that, and, if you're not able to say it wasn't your fault and everyone thinks it is, they're not going to want to play for you. And, a lot of people are going to want to leave, especially after not making the playoffs. I mean, y'all did not look good at all this season. And so even if he might have got fired this offseason, if he didn't bench Hurts, he might get fired next year if they don't make the playoffs. And it's not necessarily all his fault. I think he's a good head coach. I don't think he's anything special. But, we saw him, what he did in that playoff run a few years back. So overall, I think it's a lose-lose for him and maybe a win situation for Carson Wentz. So people are thinking, where is Wentz going to go? Where will he end up? I know the Eagles have said they want to keep him. They want to try to mend the relationship and, kind of form another bond with him. And it just doesn't seem like he's buying it. He's saying it's not possible to repair what's been broken. So where will he go? I don't think he's going to go anywhere. But if he does, the Colts are looking like a very nice option. and maybe even Chicago. I know they'll want to try to trade him out of the division, though. I mean, why not? But yeah, I think he'll stay. Not much to say on that. There's not really much out right now about it, and I obviously don't have any inside contacts yet, so we're just gonna have to stick with what I know. Also, what does this mean for North Dakota State quarterback Trey Lance? And not necessarily the whole Hurts thing, but just the Wentz thing. I mean, Wentz had a terrible season. He might get traded, and now they're saying they want him to stay, but he doesn't even want to stay anymore. I mean, what does it mean for another Division II, or I guess Division I FCS quarterback in Trey Lance? How does it affect his draft stock? How are people going to look at him because of the lack of competition he's playing against in college football? And to be honest, I don't know. I mean, we know Wentz is good, and we know Wentz has a super high ceiling. I think he just kind of got screwed with being on the Eagles. I mean, they have no receivers, and especially with what went on this year, benching him, and then Hurts comes in, and Hurts starts to get all the receivers get healthy again, and Hurts looks really good, and Hurts is also a threat to run, and Wentz really isn't. And not that Trey Lance is the same kind of player as Wentz, but just kind of looking at the college that they came from, and how does playing that level of competition in college transfer into the NFL? And people keep forgetting that. I mean, Wentz was an MVP candidate a few years ago. So Wentz is a good player, and I think if he can get on a team with a good O-line and some receiver, well, I guess the Eagles have a good O-line, but if he can get on a team with some good healthy receivers, a good coaching staff, and a better defense, I think he can get back to almost that MVP caliber he was playing at a couple years ago. And for Trey Lance, I don't think it means that much, but I do think it'll kind of be a second guess. People will be second guessing him when it comes to the draft, or how long they want to, let's say after he's drafted, how long they want to keep him and give him a chance. I mean, as we saw, Dwayne Haskins didn't even make it through 2 years in the league without getting dropped as a round 1 pick. So he's released, and what's going to happen with Trey Lance? Is he going to get a shorter leash now that Wentz has done bad? Who knows? But that's just kind of my thoughts on it. And then last but not least, we got to talk about it. It's the Houston Texans. We've talked about Bill O'Brien, and we've talked about the organization, and that they're just a bad organization. But I mean, what's going on now is it just kind of proves my point to all the people that don't think the Texans are that bad of a team or organization. So apparently, the Texans told Deshaun Watson that he can have a say, or maybe not a say, but just kind of he can be involved in the hirings of the new general manager and head coach. And that's what they should do without him even having to ask or anything. I mean, you have a franchise quarterback who's only 25. You just signed him for 4 more years, and on top of all that, there's not much promise around him. He kind of should want to get out, right? So you should at least involve him in who's going to be the next head coach and general manager, and kind of build a foundation and see where this team can go and how they want to build this team around him, or how they want to build the defense and what he can handle on offense. And the Texans went out and they hired Nick Caserio for the GM position without telling Watson a thing. And he had to find out on social media. And if you add that to what happened last year with the Hopkins trade, and him not knowing about that either, and no one saying anything to him about them, trading DeAndre Hopkins, those two together is just kind of are you kidding me? I'm your franchise quarterback, I'm a star player, and you're not going to talk to me about anything. And then, especially after you say you're going to let me, be involved, you go ahead and hire someone without me even knowing, and I have to find out on Twitter. It's ridiculous for Houston to have done that. And apparently Watson also said he wanted to have an interview with Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs. Apparently Patrick Mahomes and Watson talked, and Mahomes put in a good word for Bieniemy, and obviously even without that, who doesn't want to interview an offensive coordinator that's been coaching the number 1 offense in the past 3 years or so, right? And apparently Houston didn't even request an interview with Bieniemy. So you tell your star quarterback that you just signed for 4 more years that he can be involved in, general manager and head coach hirings. And then you don't interview the head coach he wants you to interview. And then you hire a GM without him knowing at all, right? I mean, if you're Watson, how how do you get past that, right? I mean, how do you even take that? You just kind of got to laugh it off and just be like, are y'all kidding me? Y'all are trying to lose, right? Like, is this a joke? I mean, at least that's how I would see it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And it came out on Thursday that, he's been kind of talking to his teammates about should he ask for a trade or not, or what's going on. There's not much news to that, but that's just kind of what's been in the media this past day or so. If he does ask for a trade, the asking price will be so high, and he already has a no trade clause, so he'd have to waive that if it was to a team he didn't like. Even though I think he'll probably waive it just to get out of there, because the Texans don't have a future with they don't have draft picks, they don't have much young talent, so they're definitely going to be asking a lot, and it's going to be too much. I don't think any team's going to buy it. Watson is a great player, stuck on a bad team in a bad situation. I don't see him getting traded, though. I don't think the Texans are going to get him out of there. They're not going to get what they want back. There's not going to be enough. Apparently, they were asking for the next 3 years of first, 3 years of seconds, and, a young player that they can develop. And I don't see any other team saying yes. The only team that could would be the Colts. And that's just because they believe that they're a quarterback away from a championship. But, I don't even think the Colts are going to do it. And, that price is already, if they're going to do it, if they're going to make a trade with the Colts, that's within, their own division. So do they want to make that trade and then play Watson twice a year? I doubt it. And what are the odds they even find a quarterback worth, however good Watson is, and with, 6 draft picks, even if 3 of them are first? What are the odds, you get that kind of talent? I think you're going to have to just try to mend that relationship as much as you can, but I just can't believe they didn't even, request an interview with Bieniemy or tell Watson about Caserio at all. It baffles me, and it's something that I'm even knowing how bad the Texans are and living in Houston and just knowing how dysfunctional that organization has been because of the owners, I'm still surprised that happened. Also with the Texans, just an update. J.J. Watt, once out, he's probably gone. I don't think he's formally asked for a trade, or at least not publicly, but I don't see him staying. The least thing, out of everything the Texans have done these past few years with O'Brien, you at least got to let J.J. get out, right? And if you got to trade him, he's worth maybe a fourth or third round pick, just because he's 32 and he's injured all the time, but he does have a good veteran presence, and he's still a solid run defender if he can stay healthy. Obviously he's a good pass rusher too, but being this old, he's a little slower. But yeah, if you can get a third or fourth for him, go for it. Don't ask for too much. But I can't see Watt staying. But like I said, I wouldn't be if he does stay at this point. I can't be surprised anymore. The Texans are just it's just a joke right now, and this is all coming from a Jaguars fan. I'm much prouder to be a Jaguars fan, even if we had the number 5 overall pick in this draft. So, the Texans are just the bottom of the NFL right now, even if they win games. So that's gonna be it for this week. There's not much else to say. I'd just be repeating myself, but I hope y'all like this episode, and I'll see y'all next week.